What's up, everybody? It's Trey Alessio. I have my cousin Andy Alessio here. So by the time we drop this interview, hopefully all of you watching this will have seen A Love Story. It'll be out by then. We were recording it prior to the drop online, but wanted to be fully transparent here. Obviously, this is my cousin. His brother is the lead in the film. But we just wanted to do this, do some rapper shit, like dropping some interview as the movie comes out, and it's just gonna be fun. It's gonna be a R-rated, vulnerable, pull the curtains back conversation, and it'll be fun. So Andy is going to be the one interviewing me, but we can make it kind of a back and forth conversation, so it'll be fun. So what up, Andy?
Right on, man. Dude, this feels so weird. I haven't recorded anything literally, I think, for at least 3 years. So it's a little, it's like, wow, we're back at it. So
This
it's
is the
exciting.
man, the myth, the legend. He used to have back-to-back hip-hop podcasts. So go check that out. Tell them to come back because we want it. So yeah.
Yeah, man. No, let's get it. So, I mean, first and foremost, obviously, it's such a weird situation for me, right? So one of my closest friends in you and my cousin directs this.
Yep.
My little brother is in it. So it's hard not to be biased. But obviously, I've seen it now a couple of times. So, like, first and foremost, looking at your discography in the first place, right? So I've read all your scripts,
Right.
rap music scripts, mafia scripts, and now a complete, I mean, you've done a rom-com before in the past, but like not this vulnerable from a romance standpoint. So why?
So I would say that it started with the rom-com, the journey of the big rom-com. So obviously I want this, it started as the podcast, and then it morphed itself into Tough Love, which I'm working with a mentor, a professional mentor every month with, and I hope that it sees itself into the world. But it stemmed from that a little bit. I took away kind of the comedic elements for this short film, but I would say the majority of the idea stemmed straight from the big rom-com script. And I just wanted to do something near and dear to me off the top. I could have easily done something funny, something badass, action, something that'll get the oohs and ahs. But I chose to do something, near and dear to me. And I just feel like vulnerability in music and movies and TV and anything, that is what sticks with people. So if I'm gonna go for broke, that's what I want to do off the top.
So for the people who don't necessarily understand the idea, bring that to life a little bit more.
The vulnerability from A Love Story.
Yep.
Yeah. So like I said, this is going to be kind of spoiler filled because hopefully you have seen the film. So I don't know. We can get. I don't mind getting deep and personal about this. So I have been single for a very long time. Been on the dating apps. Haven't really had a ton of success on the dating apps. So this is a interesting deal because normally a movie or a film, and not to say it's not cause and effect based, but this is more of a feeling and how I feel about dating apps. And there is a story, a linear story within that, I think, but more than anything, it's a feeling, and it's not necessarily like the character does this and that causes this and that. It's more so a conscious feeling how I feel about dating apps. And obviously I feel some type of way. We can get more into that, but
I mean, for someone who hasn't literally been on a dating app for 5.5 years now, I mean, like walk me through like what that process in the first place looks like. Because my wife and I talk about all the time how like we feel really lucky that we don't have to go through with that stuff at all anymore.
Right. I try to think. I think about this all the time. Like I currently am not on the dating apps. Like I'm not to say I never will be back on. Like there are times when I'm bored and I just want to do it, and I feel like I want to download them again. But currently, right now, I'm not on them. But I just feel like it's different. Back when like we were in high school, I feel like you go up and ask a girl out, ask a significant other out, and if they want to go out, you go out, and it goes from there. Nowadays, I don't know. And I'm still figuring it out. Obviously, I'm single. I haven't figured it fully out, but yeah, I feel like a lot of people especially me, like I am self-aware enough to know I don't have the game to go up to a girl at a bar and say, hey, how you doing, what's up? So I feel like a lot of that, where am I going to find somebody? I'll go to the dating apps. And I think a lot of single young people, this is just how I feel. I felt tethered to those dating apps, and it's definitely not that way. And I wanted to show that in this film. So that's really the what if I were to have want people to take something away, I would say uh, don't feel like you are tethered to these dating apps, and just um, I feel like love. I think chasing love and trying to find love. It kind of gets um, you may get labeled like soft if you do that. Coming where we're from. But I want to kind of break that stigma a little bit and just say unapologetically, just chase love. If that's what you want, chase it, and don't feel tethered to the dating apps. And that's what I want people to take away from this film.
So it's funny that you bring up the tethered to the dating apps in the first place, because I mean, obviously, right, we live in such a society of instant gratification, and
Yeah,
that's ultimately what the dating apps is,
right,
especially with the whole swipe right, swipe left. I
right.
mean, you're instantly being attracted to what you want or don't want. So it's hard
Yeah,
not to be tethered to that. So I can only imagine.
yeah, it's so hard, and there's so many layers to it. Like, it's so, if you really think about it, it's very shallow. Like, you're basing the majority of people, I would say, are basing it on what the person looks like on the app. And then if you happen to get a match and okay, their bio is cool, then you talk to them. Then there's a whole another layer. Like, I remember when I was on it, I had great conversations with people, and then I just get ghosted for no reason. And like, I could see like the one word conversation, like I'd like to think that I catch the vibe if it's not going to work. But then when you get like paragraph long, like fun conversations, and then out of nowhere nothing, it's just it sucks. So I don't know. There's multiple layers to the dating apps that, and for some people, they probably don't take it as seriously. Like, they probably are having fun, hooking up, go do it, and back to the dating apps. But for people trying to look for something a little bit deeper, I at least for me, it stings a little bit more. You know what I mean?
Well, it's frustrating when you put effort into communication, then that happens.
Exactly. Exactly.
So no, I get that. So I mean, obviously the message of this, right, is to chase love unapologetically, or at least in your case. So how do you, from someone who's not necessarily into the cinematic world, how do you take that concept and blend it into not only a 7 to 8 minute short film, but your first short film in general?
Right. That's a good question. I mean, I like I said, I wanted to take uh like chunks of the big rom-com that I'm hoping to, eventually have people see on the big screen or Netflix or something like that. I wanted to take the big themes that I wanted to portray in that and dwindle it down to an 8-minute film, like you said. And I mean, it took me some time. It was tough to kind of cut out some of the things. Like I said, one of the decisions I made was I took away kind of those comedic elements, but it was really, like I said, just the feeling that I had, and I wanted to get that across. But for it being my short film, I just, like I said, at the end of the day, I hope just people can connect with this and relate. I hope that comes across, what I'm trying to say in the movie. But yeah, cutting stuff, that was probably the hardest part, in the editing, because you want to tell everything, but you gotta kill your darlings sometimes.
So what did the original then? So it was originally, so it finished out at 8 minutes.
Right.
What did you? How long was it initially?
uh, Initially it was probably maybe closer to like 12 or 15.
Okay.
Yeah, so I mean, and there just some things throughout the whole process, and we'll probably get into like the shooting process, the editing process, if you want.
Absolutely.
But like, I've never done that before. Obviously, as I'm a first time director, it still feels weird to say. I edited it, and there are things you even have to go back and include. Like sometimes, um, basically, what I think I'm trying to say is like from what I wrote, the very script that I landed on, and what you will see on the film, there are very big similarities just with the logistical part of shooting. Like you have to put in a little insert to get from one scene to another. You gotta this person couldn't make this day of shooting, so we had to pivot. A location wasn't available like I thought it was going to be, so we had to pivot. So the script that ultimately I landed on, it was, I don't want to say completely different. The meat and the bones of it were there, but definitely some things we had to pivot. So that whole process was very eye-opening, and it makes it fun. Like you obviously want to get the final product, so you're like, how do we make it happen to get to that final product? So it was a problem solving kind of deal. But
So before we even go into the nuances and of what that looked like, especially as a new director,
yeah,
why this film, or why this to be your first short film? Besides the vulnerability aspect,
right.
anyway.
Yeah, I just, again, I wanted, I feel like vulnerability is deeply embedded in this film, and I think there's an element that that's missing from maybe the romantic and or rom-com genres, excuse me, in the mainstream, especially. Like when I think rom-com, I honestly, I think it gets thrown around with like chick flick, unfortunately. And I see a lane, if you will, of a male perspective, rom com. This again isn't a comedy, but just a romantic take, vulnerable take from a male point of view. I think we don't really see that a lot, especially in mainstream movies, if you will. So I really wanted to peel back the layers, and really it comes down to empathy. You know, don't you don't know what everybody is going through, so be a good person. But I think that also goes hand in hand with the vulnerability of this film. So that's really what and like I said, the fact that it's my first one. If I'm, like I said, if I'm gonna go for broke, I want to tell my story and how I truly feel. So that is what came to life.
I mean, it's very interesting that you say that as in just simply telling your story, because obviously looking at it from a rap music world, right? Something that we can both relate to seems
Right.
to be the case for any debut album
Yeah.
where literally we'll use Logic as example.
Sure.
2013, 2015 Logic, not the Logic that we see today, but just like him wanting to tell his story, right?
Right.
On Under Pressure, and then whatever happens after that might get diluted, but that's a different case.
Right.
But like the first one obviously has to be the hardest in
Yeah.
that realm
Yeah.
because of the fact that you want it to depict your feelings and truly tell your story. So
Yeah.
do you feel like there's pressure then in that regard for it not necessarily to be perfect, but once again, be told the way that you want it to be told?
Man, yeah, yes and no. I think if you want to look at it from a perfectionist view, it's never done. Like I think I'm on my fourth cut. Right. Pulling back the curtains. Obviously, it hasn't dropped yet online, so I'm still making little tweaks and stuff. But I would bet you that by the time it drops, and this interview drops, you may be watching the fifth or maybe even sixth cut of the film, just because I want to make it as good as possible. I feel like Kanye, constantly making tweaks. But at the same time, getting this vulnerability out, a part of me just like wants to have fun on the next one and wants to tell maybe a story um, that's not so personal to me, but I can connect with the theme. And that's how I will be able to tell the story. But it opens up the door where I can just, I feel like this, I had to get off my chest. The next film and the next one after that, I can just tell, fun, interesting, compelling, dark, stories, and I don't know what they're going to be off the top of my head right now, but I feel like with this being my first one, I'm very proud of it. Again, it's not perfect by any stretch, but it is near and dear to me, and the fact that I'm allowing that to be my first one, I'm excited about.
So what's even more interesting about this is obviously the vulnerability with the first short film, but the fact that it was done on an iPhone. And
Yeah,
that's the first time that you recorded with an iPhone.
yeah, I mean, absolutely. And some like hardcore filmmakers might like shun me for that, and they might think, Jesus Christ, this is on an iPhone, like how whack. But really, that comes back to, I wanted to, we're balling on a budget a little bit. Like, professional camera equipment is very, very expensive. And, I gathered my resources and I purchased equipment. Now we're on iPhone, what, 12 now? The cameras on iPhones are really, really good. And I went and got a lens. I went and got just a mic and a gimbal and all this equipment to make it look the best it could on an iPhone. Now, obviously, you can call it amateur filmmaking because that is what it is. But I think, in terms of I don't want to say it looks so professional, but like it doesn't just look at like when something that when you hear, oh, it was made on an iPhone, I feel like that won't be the first thing that pops into people's minds that this was made on an iPhone. I hope the story connects with them, but I just wanted to take what I had and take the bull by the horns and do it. I really just wanted to get my feet wet as a filmmaker, and we can get further into that why I chose to do that at this point in time. But really, it was just taking what you have and doing something.
It's just by any means necessary, right? And I don't think people realize enough now that we live in a society where you can literally use anything of what you have to make it work. I mean, going off of our podcast realm for a minute, you and I've talked about this. I recorded literally like on a $30 microphone with just a Skype setup where you just simply record the conversation and then put it online. And it's like literally you don't have to have a big baller setup to one, do what you want, and then two, release high quality. So I think that's just important to touch on. That's super, super cool in that regard.
Right. Well, thank you. I appreciate that.
Well, of course. So, I mean, you talked about this. You're transitioning right now from script writer to, I mean, complete filmmaker, as I would like to say, who's watching Dawson's Creek right now, Dawson Leary. But so, and we could have another whole conversation on that. Right. But walk me through that transition. I mean, how hard is it? And we'll talk about the casting and things like that later too. Sure. But walk me through how hard is it to turn what you have, on a script into an actual real life visual?
Yeah. So that I could spend a whole hour on this subject. I will always, call myself a writer at heart. I've been writing since fourth grade, and it's taken different forms along the way. But I think I have come into my own as a storyteller. I think, and this is what I want to do. Again, if I could be like Scorsese or Tarantino, where I'm writing and directing, that would obviously be the best case scenario. But the transition into like you're writing for yourself right now. Like before that, the process was more like I'm writing in hopes of making it to the big screen and somebody else directing. So really there's no limit to the writing because you're not thinking about budget. You're not thinking about, the logistics. But when you're writing for yourself, especially on a micro budget, you're shooting on an iPhone, you really start to think about those things. Like I can't have a car blow up. I can't, I can't have the special effects and the CGI like you would potentially in a big budgeted movie like that. So really, when you're writing for yourself from writer to filmmaker, that is a big shift. And you just think to yourself, how I have to cut some things in order to tell it. And even within that process, maybe you'll find different ways to tell certain things. So you really pull back the layers and peel back the layers of the onion when you know are writing for yourself. But um, I I'm really just crossing out aspirings on the labels that I label myself. Like, I think that's a big thing, especially when in this industry. Like, I'm an aspiring screenwriter. I'm an aspiring filmmaker. No, fuck that. I am a screenwriter. I am a filmmaker, and now that I put out this film, now I can cross off aspiring filmmaker. I'm a filmmaker. So that's just the mentality. But and there's so many layers to like you writing for yourself, but really it just comes down to doing it. Like, just do it, because it's hard. It's hard to break into this industry, and I just wanted to get my feet wet and do it. So that's the mentality with that. But I'll always be a writer at heart. Always be a writer at heart.
So you're writing for yourself. You haven't really come out and said it, but can we say that the lead character is completely based on your experience?
Yes. So there are absolutely some things that were exaggerated. Like, even when you write a biopic, you know, I feel like you have to exaggerate things for story, for the structure of the story, and there are absolutely, this is a character based on me, but there are absolutely some things that had to be exaggerated to get, you know, the point across. And but yeah, this was basically about my take on dating apps, for sure.
So based off of, I mean, once again, just like you reiterated, based off similarly of your experiences, then how in the hell would you want a 6'1", blonde hair, blue eyes, probably better looking individual than both of us to be your lead character and my brother?
Yeah, so Jake was absolutely great. So knowing that I have a micro budget, you know, we're shooting on an iPhone. This being my first time, I'm not. I'll be honest. I didn't really know going in what I was doing as a director. I took so many like online classes, and I watched YouTube videos, and I read a lot going up to this, because up until this point, I took professional writing classes, and that's what my focus was. But knowing that I wanted to get my feet wet with the filmmaking side of things, I watched videos and tried to prep myself as much as possible, because, um, you know, I just wanted to be prepared. But so knowing that it was my first time, and no disrespect, I don't want to say like they're non actors, but by with me saying that, it just means that's not their full-time job, because they absolutely killed it. Jake was great, but the my my thought process in casting him was the fact that I wanted, and I asked him this before, so I sent it out to a few people, even my brother. I sent it out to my brother, and I said, if I want you to feel this, like I want you to have gone through some of these things, and if it hits you in a certain way, then I want you in this. Like, it. So for me, it wasn't really about like the greatest actor. Like, I didn't want Leo DiCaprio to play this role. Like, it was just somebody who I know I have access to, that has felt that can empathize with the story. And I sent that to Jake. I told him that beforehand, and he connected with it. And so I was like, all right, let's do it. And so he agreed to it, and he lived in Minneapolis at the time. He came down to Des Moines, and we did it. So um absolutely, he's a better looking dude than me, but it was more so the fact that I had access to him, and he felt the story as I did.
Well, and what's cool about that too is, and I'm not going to go too deep into it, but the fact that, I mean, obviously the main goal of this is to just unapologetically chase love and do what you want. And he's
Yeah.
actually, been influenced by some of the script in his own life and
Yeah.
pursuing some things. So it's been really
Yeah,
cool.
and you know what? He texted me. I think it was maybe even a couple days after he went back to Minneapolis, and he texted me. He's like, "I took a page out of the main character is Mac. I took a page out of Mac's book," and that warmed my heart so much. Like, you have no idea. Like, I don't care how cheesy that sounds. Like, so the fact that that does it for me. Like, one person connected to the movie, um, and that's what it's all about. Like, that's what ultimately at the end of the day that this whole thing is about. That you can connect with this character and maybe take something from his life and use it in yours. So when I heard that, I was very happy, very happy.
Now, two other people are on film, correct? So Emily, who very close friend of yours,
Yep.
and then one of our cousins,
Yeah.
and Kayla,
I was
correct?
gonna tell that story. Yeah.
Yeah.
So Emily is a very close friend. She was great. She did show choir back in the day, so she has a little bit more experience in kind of performing point of view. So I asked her to be the main female character, and again, this is very much from a male point of view. So Jake was absolutely the main character, but Emily was great. Again, I had access to her just because we're good friends and she lives here, and she has that kind of performance background a little bit, and more than anything she did on screen, she helped out a shit ton behind the screen. I gave her an executive producer credit, and I gave her a production assistant credit because she was there the whole time. Even when we were just shooting a scene with just Jake, she was back there helping with the sound, with the clapperboard, helping in the editing process. She was great. So she, bravo to her. Absolutely killed it too. Even on what she did on screen was great too. And then Kayla, there's a funny story. I kept telling. So um, we got actually one of Ty's friends to partially commit to being what is, and like again, this is kind of a spoiler, but you hopefully will have seen the movie by now. We're calling her Park Girl because you never really hear her name. But so I had one of Ty's friends tell me, I told her the scenario and like we wanted to do this. And this a sidebar from what I'm about to tell you is on the original script, we were going to do this scene in a grocery store, but some logistics happened and we ended up switching it to a park. And she, for some reason, she couldn't do it. So we had to pivot, and I asked a bunch of people. Emily asked a bunch of people, and we landed on my cousin Kayla, which is funny because there's some romantic interest in the movie with Jake and Kayla and their cousin. So I kept telling them, if we end up winning the Oscar, I'm gonna have to tell them in interviews that you guys are cousins, and they were laughing, and it's funny. But I want to also say, unfortunately, it didn't end up on the screen because of logistics reasons. But I very much had diversity in mind, and I really wanted to, because that's a huge thing nowadays. Inclusion in the script, in the shooting, and I really wanted to do that. So Ty's friend is a woman of color, and I wanted to do that, but unfortunately, logistics played a role, and she couldn't make it. So we ended up going with cousin on cousin.
Hey.
But yeah, they were all great. They killed it, and I thank them so much for being a part of this.
All I can think of is that scene just happening in like Scornavacos, Hy-Vee,
Yeah.
all those places. I've been very great.
Yeah. So originally, the original thing that I wrote was the original thing was Mac, Jake's character. He goes down an aisle in a grocery store, and he's not paying attention. He's getting some off the shelves, and he accidentally runs into a girl. She drops some of the food items, and he helps her pick them up. And he says, "Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. Let me buy this for you." Blah blah blah. And they end up like exchanging numbers. He smiles. The end. I wanted it to be a very simple ending because I feel like that gets the point across. Like, so again, spoiler alert. I hope you have seen the movie by now, but he deletes the apps and then finds a girl in real life. So I always wanted it to be a simple like smile on the face will end it. Now location logistic wise changed. We were going to do it at a grocery store, We threw out just a restaurant, an Italian restaurant. And then we ended up landing on a park. So again, the whole process of adapting and pivoting, being a filmmaker and a director, I feel like something as small as a 3-day shoot, which is what it was, that opens your eyes as to how much changes and how much time goes into it. Like I think of our 3-day shoot. Literally, Jake got here. He was again from Minneapolis. Got to Des Moines on a Friday night, maybe at 7. We literally started shooting, and we looked up, and it was literally probably 12:30, and we're like, "Holy shit! Like time is flying." Same thing happened on the Saturday. We started maybe at like 10 or 11. Looked up, and it was like 2:33, and we're like, "We probably should take a lunch break." Like time just flew by. Like it was so much fun. Again, just it's putting a puzzle together, and sometimes things don't work out, so you have to pivot because at the end of the day, you want to get the product that you want. And sometimes this is a kind of funny story, and I can tell it now that you have hopefully seen the movie. There was one scene that I forgot to shoot, and it was kind of a pivotal scene. And I'll just say it. So the process, and we can I hope this came across in the movie, so we can discuss this too if you want. But the process of him finding the girl on the dating app, he goes on the date, and then you cut. Where was I breaking up? Did you hear me?
You're good. Keep going.
Okay.
I'm gonna edit it.
I'm sorry. So the process of him finding the girl on the dating app, going on the date, other things happen, and then it cuts. And you see the exact same scene, but just a solo scene. So I got that inspiration from Joker with Joaquin Phoenix. If you remember in that movie, Zazie Beetz, he kind of falls in love with her, if you will, goes on a date. She sees his mother in the hospital with him. And then later on in the movie, it cuts the exact same scene and she's not there, which portrays him imagining her. So I got that idea from that movie. So I wanted for that to come across, and maybe it didn't fully, but that is what I was intending. And I'm trying to circle us around to even the question that.
So hold on though. So that actual scene then was all imaginary.
Yes.
Okay, I did not know that.
See, so on this page, I think it's very apparent, but maybe not on screen, maybe not. I know what I was gonna say to circle it back around. So there was the bar scene. They're at the bar clinking drinks together, and then I cut, and I wanted to just have him in the same bar couch by himself drinking the drink, but we forgot to fucking shoot that scene with just him. So I adapted, and I included an insert shot at the beginning of their date with 2 drinks, and then the solo one is just the 1 drink. And if you didn't know that without me telling you, I honestly don't think you would have picked that up. So I think we did a good job in pivoting, and because obviously it was hard. Jake was in the process of moving to Florida, and we didn't really have access to reshoot anything. So I decided that was good enough to get the point across in the 2 drinks and the 1 drink. There's some other little funny things that when you're editing the movie, you're like, oh shit, like we needed this, but I think it ended up working out, well enough.
So I mean, obviously he sent me the itinerary and was like, dude, this is like a full 3-pack day. But I mean, you just mentioned too that there were some little funny things that came across when you edited. So like, what were those?
So number one, this is just funny. So I feel like I'm exposing myself as a director that I kind of failed a little bit. The one other big editing thing that you see, and again, hopefully you see this first, and you see the movie first, and then watch this, because this will be glaring if you know about it. And hopefully you didn't see it, when you first watched it, because I don't think I said anything. But so let's just say the dick pic scene. So he's wearing pants going into the bathroom, and when he's coming out, he has shorts. And we had to film that on 2 separate days, and that's why it wasn't cohesive. But I don't think you notice it when you blindly watch it. So I was okay with it. But that and the bar scene we just discussed, those were the 2 big things. If I could go back and reshoot, there would be one scene that I didn't even write, but I came up in my head after the fact that I would shoot with Jake in the car. But other than that, again, it's adapting and putting out fires and problem solving. Really is what a director part of the job is. But it was fun. It was an absolutely fun learning experience. And again, time flew by. You said Jake sent you the itinerary, and so the pre-production process, I try to be as thorough as possible. I again am new. I don't fully know what I'm doing. I'm learning on the fly like everyone else. But I tried to storyboard, which if you don't know what storyboarding is, it's literally drawing out every cut, if you will, every image. And it took a long fucking time. And I suck at drawing, so it was embarrassingly bad, the drawings. But I wanted to at least get on the page in my mind what I want it to look like. So when I'm shooting, I at least have that initial image on the page. So I'm like, okay, it should look like that a little bit. So I did that. I tried to schedule things based on when Jake was available, when Emily was available, and they had a couple things going on. So I was like, okay, we need to do this day. So we did not shoot in full like chronological order. Like we did some scenes here. We did the night scenes the first day. We did so I tried to put together a schedule. Wardrobe was another thing that like, it's something you don't really think about, like, normally just going into a movie, but like the cohesion of the wardrobe is a big thing. Like I said, with the pants versus shorts, I tried to be as thorough as possible and telling them, okay, we need like 5 different outfits. We need one for this, one for this. So yeah, I try to be as thorough as possible in the pre-production aspect, but again, shit happens and you pivot a little bit and you make it work. And without me telling you, I honestly don't think it's too glaring, like, oh my God, I can't watch this anymore because that happened. But so, it is what it is, but it was a fun learning experience for sure.
Now, no soundtrack involved in this, right?
So I will say that I'm super happy I got this. So there isn't a lot of music in it.
Yeah.
I found this beat that I loved on YouTube, reached out to the creator of that, and he allowed me to have that. And then I also have, since I wrote the script, had this song in mind, which is Sylvan the Q, Loner, Far From Familiar. I'm a huge fan of Sylvan the Q, and if you haven't listened to him, I know we're both big fans. Go check out his music. But it's funny, I've met Sylvan LeCue in Chicago when I went to see him in concert, and we go back and forth sometimes on social media. He's very much blown up and he has a big following, but I've been there since 2012, 2013. So we kind of go back and forth on Twitter a lot. And so it was funny when I met him in Chicago. I came up and told him my name, and he's like, "Oh, I recognize you from Twitter." I just thought it was so cool. So I had this song in mind for specifically this film, and I tweeted at him and I said, "Hey, I would love to use this song in my very first short film. Is that okay?" And he got back to me and he said, I can't remember exactly what I said. It was something funny. He's like, "Go eat, man," or something, meaning, yes, go ahead and use it. So there is one like actual song in the script that I think works perfectly. Hopefully everybody else got that vibe. But yeah, so there is a instrumental and then Loner by Sylvan LeCue.
So as a cool way to wrap this up then, and if you had to pick 3 or 4 songs, doesn't necessarily matter when you'd put them in the film, or you just want to curate a soundtrack at the end of it, right? So kind of just like the Space Jam 2, the soundtrack.
Sure.
I don't know if you saw that. I saw it opening night. Yeah. Had a bunch of, obviously, music on it that wasn't in the movie. what would it be to really get the point across from the movie in general?
Okay, number one that comes to mind, which I actually wrote into the Tough Love script, which is the rom-com that is kind of adapted from this movie, if you will. And that is "We Find Love" by Danielle Caesar. I just love the chorus. I think it fits perfectly. We find love, we get up, we fall down, we give up. More so in the feature length movie script, but I think it vibes with this too, and probably like a deep, vulnerable Mac Miller song. That's probably another one I would pick. Maybe like "Objects in the Mirror" or "Small World" or something. I don't know. I'd have to think about it, but and then I think Sylvan LaCue "Loner" would be the other one if I'm picking three to encompass the feeling.
I thought you were gonna say "Love Lost" by Mac, which I love. I don't know if you heard that one. It's vintage.
That's is that off of "I Love You, Thank You" or something like that?
It is. Yes,
Yeah.
it is.
Yep.
Yeah,
it's a Mac Miller, homie.
it's a classic. Now the question is though, so this is two part.
Yeah.
One, what do you do now with this release?
Yep.
And then two, is there a sequel?
There will not be a sequel. I'm cool with sequels, but this just to me doesn't feel like a sequel is needed. But right now I'm always writing. I'm always more so my big scripts are, obviously intended to be on the big screen, Netflix, HBO or TV. But I do have some things in brewing a little bit. Emily and I have talked about doing another short film with her as the lead. So that will probably be my next short film. I just texted her actually last night about the first idea I had to do so, but it could very well change. But that will probably be my next one, is her as the lead. She's kind of like my De Niro to my Scorsese. So that will probably be the next one, but I'm always working on things. I have a script called The Affluent Divide, which I'm still trying to get out there into the world. Tough Love, trying to get out into the world. I have the rap script. I have the mob comedy. I'm kind of adapting the mob comedy into a TV show currently and updating it a little bit. So I'm always working on the big picture things, but what I'm going to write to shoot next will probably be the one with him.
Well, Trey, that is very exciting. Thank you for having me on, man. Haven't done this forever, so it's good just to go back to what I would call the glory days to an extent. So obviously everyone's excited. Now the question is always, when's this getting released? You haven't given an official release date.
Yeah, so I haven't given an official release date because, I'll be as transparent as possible. So right now it is August 7th, and I shot my shot and entered this into some film fest. And again, I'm not expecting to be accepted into these. If I do, it'll obviously be awesome. But I just wanted to shoot my shot because I'm very proud of the film. And some of the film fest, in order for it to be eligible to be entered into the film fest, they want it to be premiered at that film fest. So I entered into 3 different film fests, and one of them wants it to be, if I were to be accepted, to be premiered at that film fest. So let's say, the notification date is in late September. Well, yeah, late September. So that, again, I expect it to be a no. And if that is a no, then I'm probably just going to release it on my website, release it on YouTube. But if it's a yes, and I do get into that film fest, it will probably get pushed and I'll pull a fucking Kanye, and I apologize for that. So right now I'm eyeing September 24th. And if all goes according to plan, this interview will probably be released after September 24th. So maybe sometime like early October is when you'll be hearing this. But so hopefully the film will be out by then. But if it does get accepted into the film fest, maybe closer to like November. I'm sorry, I've been hyping this a lot. It's crazy. So I'm pulling a full Igor with this. I wrote it, I shot it, I produced it, directed it, edited it. And I'm promoting it. So I've had so much fun promoting it. We released the still images, the poster, the teaser is coming from right now, this upcoming Monday. And then I'm going to do a couple other kind of interactive things on social medias. But then we'll just release it online if I don't indeed make it into those film fests, which I will not be butthurt about. Like it is what it is, and this is my first one, so I don't expect it, but it will be icing on the cake if that is. Oh, you can't hear me?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, I got you now.
Excellent. No,
Okay.
the audio cut out. We're good.
Okay.
But so, and then there was going to be a release party attached to this too.
Yes. So I'm inviting, close family and friends to a private premiere party. I from the jump, I even before we shot it, I thought of that idea, and I was like, that will be fun. We're gonna have a red carpet, a photo backdrop. We're gonna dress up and do the whole 9 yards. It's gonna be fun. I am a little nervous with showing, friends, because this again isn't like a ooh ah type movie. It's very personal and vulnerable to my life. So hopefully there won't be any judgment or anything. But I am, it's more so a celebration that we got our first film done more than anything. So I'm excited.
Well, that is extremely exciting, man. We're excited for you, and we can't wait to see where it goes.
I know. Again, if it connects with one person out there, I will feel like I have done my job. So I'm excited to see the response. Hopefully it doesn't get shit on, but I'm excited for it either way. The biggest thing is nobody can take it away. We made a fucking movie, and the fact that we had a 3-person, 4-person crew and we kind of did it all of ourselves, and it's very micro budgeted. I feel like I leveled up a little bit because I know we're kind of on our way out. Let me just get this one last thing in, but like, this is the reason why I wanted to shoot the film, is because rejection after rejection, when you're a writer trying to break into this industry, you enter the contest, you book the pitches on the different websites, and rejection after rejection. I just felt, especially in COVID, I was so like locked into the house by myself, very lonely and just boring, and I wanted to just do it. Like I wanted to take the bull by the horns and do it. And I feel like I leveled up in doing so. Like I went from writer to filmmaker. And I feel like even if people don't like it, nobody can take it away. We've made a fucking movie. So that's kind of where I get a sense of pride a little bit.
No, and you absolutely should. It's a big deal, and you're right. No one can take away from you.
Exactly. Thank you, man. And thank you so much for taking the time. Great questions, and it was fun.
Excellent.
Everybody go check out Back to Back Hip Hop and tell them to come back. Make them come back.
It's retired.